There we go.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Brian Thornton from Conversant Technology. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Ben Knox.
I'm Ben. So I work in the partner team and I focus on products. So working with our partners, really just make sure that the product market fit is there, making sure that they're serving their customers well.
Thanks, Ben. As I say, my name is Brian Thornton. I'm the channel manager Conversant. Today, this is a webinar that's come about from questions from some of our partners as to why direct routing on its own isn't enough to help them grow their businesses. So what we've done is put a short webinar together just to explain for some people that may be looking into the market and look at what you can do and how you can offer various services. So what we're going to cover is direct routing, why this matters, understanding direct routing, the risk of selling direct routing alone, when to move beyond direct routing, growing beyond, the opportunity that selling more than direct routing can give yourself, how you measure that success, the mistakes to avoid, and the why for partners. So what we're going to look at is why this matters now. So direct routing is an entry point into the world of Teams, but it's what else you can build around that. So customers looking for insights and to see where they're missing opportunities. The more services you can offer, the easier it is to retain them. So direct routing for Teams is becoming partners are winning customers by offering the PSTN calls directly in Teams, but many partners are only selling direct routing and missing out on upsell opportunities. Customers want more than dial tone, they want a complete communications experience. The forecasts are that the global UCaaS market is expected to reach £150 billion by 2030, which means there are huge gaps in the marketplace for people that are selling full solutions. So, understanding direct routing. Direct routing in simple terms, it connects Microsoft Teams to the traditional telephony network via an SBC or a session border controller. What that gives your end user the ability to do is make and use Teams calls, but without using a Microsoft calling plan. So they have flexibility in choosing a carrier, often gives them lower cost of calls, and it's suitable for businesses already on Teams. Again, this is a very, very basic entry level product, and you will be missing out on key elements. So the risk of selling direct routing alone. Commoditization. Direct routing, the margins are shifting as competition increases. So as I'm sure you're aware, there are a number of companies that now offer Teams direct routing. It's harder to build loyalty when direct routing is seen as interchangeable. You can obtain it from many different people, just like in the old days when someone was charging you 3p for a local call and someone came and offered you 1.5p for a local call. That's what's happening with Teams calling. You go to someone, they'll route your calls and they'll do it cheaper. What that means, it's for yourself, it's a weak differentiation, and it makes it easier for competitors to come in and to undercut not just your calling, but the value you could add to your customers. Risk 2, limited recurring revenue. So partners selling multiple services earn 2.5 times more recurring revenue. Now, let's just stop for a second and think about that. If you're selling multiple services, you can earn 2.5 times more revenue. What would that mean to your business? What would that mean to your sales staff? Would you be able to incentivize them more? Does it mean you could bring that new business development rep on? What would that extra revenue do? It might be the down payment on a Porsche. But resellers that offer more than just direct routing, on average, are earning 2.5 times more revenue. So no value-added service equals no upsell, no stickiness. At that point, when you get there, you're actually risking churn if another provider comes in, offers a better service and offers a cheaper service. So how we look at this is missed customer needs. Direct routing alone cannot address compliance or customer experience or reporting gaps. Customers expect a full solution and not just reporting. 72% of buyers will switch a provider if they aren't met in the first year. And what we say that is, you can sell your customer a solution, but if it's not the correct one, they will be looking in the marketplace for another provider. And at the end of that contract, if that other provider fills that gap, you have then potentially not only lost the revenue, you've also lost your customer. So how do you look at these things and how do you address them? Talking point for people is direct routing delivers calls, but not the customer experience. So point one, competitors are already building additional services. If you don't, you risk being replaced. Customers expect more. Voice only, fragmented experience, no analytics, poor visibility, missed opportunities. If your customer doesn't know how many agents are on calls or how many calls they're missing, that's a revenue gap. If you can help them fill that, you can show value. Partner revenue limitations, number 3. Direct routing alone equals one-off low margin sale. Adding additional features equals recurring high value contracts. Also keeps your customer close, keeps them sticky. So when to move beyond direct routing? In this, we say timing is everything. Upsell during renewals for license changes, introduce value adds before a competitor does, use service reviews to identify gaps. What do we mean by that? Are your customers ready for more? Do they have high call volumes and missed calls? Well, again, you need analytics, but that's what you can offer to look into that. Using multiple tools for communication, fragmented, agents getting very, very dissatisfied because they're having to switch between multiple apps to try and gain information. You might have 3 or 4 tabs open. Sometimes an agent can close a tab by mistake, and that elongates a process. If somebody has no reporting or call analytics, again, ties in with number 1. They can't see what the volume of calls are. They can't see what missed calls are. They can't see if calls have been answered or abandoned. So again, you've got somewhere to go in there. Number 4, complaints about customer service speed. I think we've all been on those calls where an agent has been trying to do the best, but they're limited by what they have in their kit bag. And unfortunately, that's probably held us all back at some point. I know I've been guilty of that at times. Just something that unfortunately happens with incompatible technology. So we look at now growing beyond. And this is just a simple step-by-step guide as to how we've come about this, with talking to some of our resellers and what they want and how they've done things. So understand the customer's pain points, map current communication processes, identify missed calls, delays, or poor routing. All of those can have a huge impact on a business. Now, at this moment in time, businesses may not actually understand what the missed calls are, what the delays are, or what the poor routing is. That's where your expertise can come in and help them. Show them the business impact, link communication gaps to lost revenue, and use data as examples. So again, if you've got the tools to show them, they can then take that, turn that into a business case, and look at what they need to do. Introduce the vision. Show what's possible with a unified approach. Position it as solving customer experience, productivity, and scalability. Our product is a completely scalable product, and that's why our resellers like us. Number 4, deliver the migration roadmap. If you go in and emphasize minimal disruption and provide clear milestones to your customer, what you're showing them is you understand where the pain points are. You're not just going to go in and rip and replace. You're actually going to give them a clear roadmap of how the solution can help them, what it's going to deliver, and what are the long-term benefits of that to them. In turn, what that will do, it will build you a recurring value, ongoing analytics, optimization, and feature updates. What I'm going to do now, we're going to talk about the opportunity, which I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ben, and he'll talk you through the next few slides.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brian. So I think just to kind of give a bit of a backstory, the opportunity is going back a little bit to the commoditization piece. So where this is obviously heavily centered around things like direct routing, the underlying message is that this kind of applies to any form of general telephony nowadays. I think you look at, on-premise telephony, people who are still potentially using that, traditional VoIP services, You've got the direct routing services as well if you're more advanced and you're already in the team space. But the idea is that in itself is all centered around that commoditization piece. This is why partners and even customers are trying to move on from this and get a little bit more advanced. It's mainly because it's the way the market's going. We'll go through each one and kind of go through from a customer and a partner perspective what this means to you. But it's really about building that modern and scalable solution for your customers, so that when your customers move on from the traditional commoditization piece of phones or voice, whatever it might be, they're not going to another partner to get that service. You're there, they're going straight to you, and you're building that ongoing customer loyalty essentially. So there's a couple of add-on areas. So there's multiple things you can offer your customers, but ultimately based on the conversations we've had in the market, we've narrowed it down to kind of 4 key ones where you can get some immediate wins and you can add real value to your customers. And the first one is contact center features. So the word contact center might sound scary, particularly for SMEs and the smaller customers or mid-sized customers that you have, but we don't see contact center still being 150, 200, 300 users sat on a sales floor, customer service operations center, and just kind of hammering phone calls anymore. You're finding nowadays that small businesses and SMEs are using contact center features and functionality just to, be competitive against the customer experience that their competitors are offering. So, and they could be in many forms. So you could do things like just more streamlined queue management. So giving your customers more and better options so that when calls are routed to them, whether it be on skill base, whatever kind of advanced routing that you have, they're routed to the right person and the right team. So the chances that call gets dealt with, your customers' calls are being dealt with in first try, is significantly more increased. So it's all about that customer experience. Things like real-time monitoring, so understanding what your service levels are doing, how your agents are performing, compliance, DTMF masking, things like that are just kind of as a standard nowadays that you really should be having already if you don't. And then ability to monitor and coach calls. And by that we mean, you might have a new starter, and if they're a salesperson, they might have a team that they're learning from, just being able to listen in, coach the person and get them up to speed a little bit quicker. And these are real life use cases that people do every day. Businesses use these, but traditional direct route and VoIP services don't allow you to do it. So adding something like a contact center into your portfolio lets you branch out to your customers who maybe aren't as advanced in the voice or customer experience side, but want to get there and just provide that extra level of service. So I think, before we move on, a good example, just to paint a picture, is something like a service desk. I always use the same one, but you might have a service desk or a stock service and you don't have 100 users there delivering support to customers. You might have 5 or 10, but a service desk might be first, second, and third line. And if you want to route calls through first, second, and third line based on skill level, you can do that with a contact center. Traditional direct route, and you might find that a little bit more difficult. So just a very basic user case there to put it into perspective. So I think the next one, I realize I can move the screen myself there, is omni-channel. So it fits quite nicely into contact center. So omni-channel means, well, I go for Wix, does what it says on the tin. It means any form of communication, any channel, email, WhatsApp, web chat, social messaging. The reality is nowadays that we find customers, or our partners' customers as well, they kind of dictate how they contact businesses. Now it used to be a case of, I need to contact a business, I jump onto a website and they've got a number here or an email, I either pick between one of the two. Nowadays, consumers basically decide how they want to contact you, and it's up to you as a business to, unfortunately, enable that and allow that to happen. Because if you don't offer the service or the channel in which your customers want to contact you on, but your competitor does, that's when you start to find out that actually you're losing business here and they're going elsewhere. And that's what's happening to our partners' customers. So being able to just work with companies and offer them their preferred comms method makes a huge difference. And like we said, things like email is as a standard, they're probably using it already. Things like SMS and WhatsApp for business and social media, these are things that your customers will be handling themselves. The challenge is managing it and providing it in a streamlined, unified platform that allows them to make it easy for their customers to contact them, essentially. So moving on to area number 3, one of the key ones, I think, is advanced analytics. So advanced analytic goes back into, regardless of whether you're with just dialed routing, whether you've got contact center, whether you're allowing, your customers, you've got omni-channel set up for a customer and you've already completed the past 3 or 4 steps, analytics is going to be needed at every single one of those steps, essentially. And the UC market, I think, has made it quite common that advanced analytics isn't a standard for some reason. It's an added service, it's an added extra that people have to pay for. When you've got services like Teams, for example, I think the number one thing I hear about analytics and Teams is that that's great, we get all this data, but no one knows how to make sense of it. Not all businesses have a developer or a data engineer or someone who can sit there, and their sole responsibility is taking the data out of Teams and turning it into fancy reports for the stakeholders, scheduling those things and giving cool insights into how business is performing against targets, what your contact center is actually doing. People just don't have the resource or the time for that. So as a standard, I think bringing something like advanced analytics into a contact center, into an omni-channel solution, into a direct routing opportunity is an immediate win for your customers. If you can provide an added service, advanced analytics, and you're not charging an additional cost and everything for it, it's just included, you're immediately putting a step ahead, and you're showing them there's an actual return on their investment. So when they're making an investment in contact center, they're making an investment in omnichannel, they're upgrading, they're advancing, which can be a scary move. It's an investment. They're adding services on. They're ultimately spending more money with you. You're showing them that they're getting a return of investment in that. And I think that's probably the key piece for us, is when we're showcasing how you can improve what you do for your customers. The advanced analytics is the piece that everyone's like, right, that's key. That's what people are asking for. So the last but definitely not least is, and probably a more exciting area as well, is the CRM and app integrations piece. So it's all well and good having your customer experience stack work perfectly. Your customers are contacting you exactly how they want to. You're getting insights into your contact center. You're getting a return of investment, or your customers are. That certain bits are performing better than others, and you've made the right decision. But how do you actually make that all work together? And you do that through integrating your voice and your omni-channel, your contact center in with existing systems like CRM and business apps. We find this is slowly becoming a standard. Normally, when our partners reach out to us, they have a very specific CRM or something in mind, and they go, look, we've got a customer that's using something like Salesforce or Dynamics or HubSpot. They live and breathe in that system, but they use Teams, and the two are not connected up. They need to be able to use one system or the other, because we can all say Teams is the most unified enterprise platform out there for UC, and it technically is statistically. However, if you haven't connected it to a CRM, you haven't connected it to your internal systems and workflows, you're still swapping between 2 or 3 systems to get the job done. If you've got the right tool set and the right stack, you can go to your customers who have these problems, and you can turn those 2 or 3 different screen pops into one. You can bring everything into one place, and they're managing everything. They don't have to leave. Their workflows are there. When calls come in, for example, you've got the ability to see who's calling. It's simple stuff like that. You've got the ability to see the previous interactions. Have they called before? Is there sentiment to the score? Do I know that actually they're calling about a password reset that they've called about 3 times now? Before they've even picked up the phone, you go, hi Brian, I see that you've had a password reset case open. Are you just looking to chase that up? That experience is kind of second to none out there compared to what you're looking at before. So yeah, the idea is that you're providing insights, integrations, analytics, new ways of contacting customers in one system, and you're making it work with what you already have or what your customers already have, which is their existing CRM, pulling in their own apps and stuff like that as well. So as a result, I think, just kind of to summarize it, the ideal goal of all of this is just keep your customers sticky. By adding these things on, you're kind of meeting the requirement of the typical account management stuff of white space. You've got a customer who has this, but you now have the ability to sell them all of this and provide them all of this. And you're not just selling them this to increase their revenue, or your revenue, sorry, which is great, but you're actually hitting a pain point. You're meeting a need. Everyone needs to move in this direction. you're just making sure that they don't go somewhere else to do it. And in turn, you're increasing your average revenue per customer and you're decreasing the churn because you're building that kind of long-term customer relationship as well. So that was a very high level kind of run through of the opportunity. I'm just going to pass back to Brian because he'll go through how we actually measure that success as well.
Thanks, Ben. So, sorry, as Ben said, measuring success. So when we say partner playbook, measuring your success, what we mean is, what does this look like to you? So obviously direct routing, yes, it opens the door and it helps keep it open, but you need to bring more, you need to add more value, you need to bring more into the customers. So KPIs to track is, when you're going in, what are the call answer rates? What are the average call handling times? Customer satisfaction scores? They may not have any of this to hand, they may not. What are the first call resolutions? And what are the renewal rates? So for yourself, the successful metrics, the way to look at this is, for yourself, it'd be recurring revenue growth, increased license adoption, get a good cross-sell ratio, and you get lower churn. So it's like Ben said, really, what we're looking at is, once you can look at what your customers' pain points are and you can learn to address them and you've got the correct tool set, you're giving them the tools to then manage that process and to move forward. So again, through talking to our partners, what they come and say to us and what we get told is, and how we react is, treating direct routing as the final solution. It's a massive no-go. Some people think, oh, it's too complex, I need a big team. You don't. Conversant do the heavy lifting. We've got an absolutely fantastic team. We can do all that for you. People are ignoring omni-channel integration, not really showing a return on investment for the customer, waiting until a customer complains to add features, and failing to differentiate yourself from the competitors. Now, I think Ben and I have both hit on this before. I think a big thing for any reseller, any partner of ours, is they do believe that our system gives them the features and the skill set to be able to differentiate from a lot of the competitors that are out there. But a statistic is 70% of UCaaS and telephony projects fail to deliver their expected return on investment due to poor planning and a lack of adaptation and missed upsell opportunities. So a lack of adoption is if someone goes in, rips out, replaces, and you always get people that are resistant to change. We don't look to do that. We look to make sure that everyone's trained, everybody's trained correctly in their role. They understand that the system's going to change. But some of the biggest failures come from internal lack of adoption, and we want to take that stress away from people. So the why for partners, simply really what, again, we've alluded to this all along, but more services equals a deeper relationship. Customers stay longer, spend more. Yes, direct routing is the foundation, definitely not the ceiling. The market is shifting towards compliance, UCaaS and omnichannel. So people now expect more. They want to be able to gauge customer satisfaction. They want to see, as Ben said, how often has that customer called in? Were they happy with the outcome of that call? Did we resolve that call first issue? Did that have to get moved on? How many people were involved in that call? How many people touched it? How much did that cost me as a customer? So from the take from that is, now is the time to expand before your competitors start to get in and sort of come in and go, well, I can actually offer this. So for yourself, it's about taking that control and making sure that your customer understands that you can fill those gaps. So coming from that, the bottom line for partners is increase revenue per customer, boost retention and stickiness, positions you as a trusted advisor, not just a provider. And what we mean by that is, we all want increased revenue. You do, I do. However, to get there, you need to keep your customers happy and offer additional services. Showing customers where the gaps are and helping to alleviate the pain points makes you a trusted advisor and not just a service provider. That really is it for us. We don't want to teach anybody how to suck eggs. We hope you've found this enjoyable and informative. And if you've got any questions or you'd like a chat, please email either myself, Brian.Thornton at Conversant Technology, or Ben.Knox-Johnson at Conversant.Technology. And if there's no Q&As, I'd like to thank you for your time. No, there's no Q&A, so I'd say thank you very much.